Hey everybody, this is Grace. I just did a video, so you'll probably see that one before this one, maybe. But in this one I want to talk about a totally different topic. What I want to talk about is, that one was about basically narcissistic, histrionic people. But this one, I want to talk about whenever you get older, and say you've been around, people who have those kinds of, they're toxic people for a big chunk of your life. Dysfunctional family, the toxic people, on and on. And being told, I think many of us were told since we were young, this of that, fix this here, that nobody's perfect. And these days I hear people trying to say that the only person who ever said, the only people who ever say nobody's perfect is somebody who's one of those toxic kind of people, trying to get away with something they did wrong, or something along that way. Well, that's just not true. That all or none kind of thinking, really seriously. Because I think many of us were taught this as a lesson when we were very young, that nobody's perfect. Don't expect people to be perfect. Don't expect anybody to be to where they never do anything wrong and they're always going to treat you right. They're always going, that whole always crap. No, it's not the case. But, and they say, well, if somebody mentions that and somebody says that, then therefore they're a narcissist. Please, people, really, get a grip on that kind of thing. Seriously, the people who do it, get a grip. It's not always, it's not none, it's not no. Only the people who do this, blah, blah. That sounds so childish. It sounds like they haven't grown up, high schoolish, if even. They have to think like that. But anyway, no, see, now where I was going to connect it to is when you get older and you've been around people who are, like I said, toxic people, narcissistic, histrionic, whatever, and behaviors, abusive all around. That whole thing of nobody's perfect, I think maybe for some people that it takes a while to really sink in. What does that mean? I used to always say, and still do, that don't put anybody on a pedestal. Because if you do, eventually they're going to fall off. And when they fall, they're going to fall on you, and it's going to hurt. And that is one of those things of putting somebody, thinking somebody's going to be perfect. And they're not going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. And sometimes to some people, when somebody that they think of as so, high up there that they're just perfect, like I just said, whenever they do something wrong, it's like it bursts their bubble. It just comes, the whole view of that person just crashes. I don't think that might take years for it to sink in with some people. Years. Because we are in a cycle, we have been in a cycle of abuse with somebody, and it's the whole thing of they're good, they're bad, they're good, they're bad, they're good, they're bad, roll around like that. And kind of get used to it, and then find somebody who seems so good, so good, decent people, good, decent person. That whole thing of looking and not trusting, and looking for the red flags when they're not there. And then they do one thing wrong, and all of a sudden, oh, that's a big, huge red flag. That's it, over with. Now, some red flags do exist. I know I mentioned this recently, but it bears repeating. Depends on which channel I'm putting on. So, like I said, it does change. It has for me. It's changed over the years. I knew early on. Don't think. I was taught early on the whole thing of nobody's perfect, and I took that way. But it changes. It morphed over the years, and now it's kind of like it's a very weird feeling. I'm 58, and real close to 60. And when I see somebody, it's more, I don't know how to even describe it, really. You can see their flaws, and I can, let's just say me, I can see their flaws, and I'm not really having many expectations of a person except, hope you know, people should be respectful to other people. Courteous, you know, respectful. All this. And I cannot stand those people who say, respect is earned. Boy, that's so narcissistic to me. That's a big, huge red flag. If somebody says, respect is earned, has to be earned. No, you give people respect. And if they do something wrong, that's a different story. But to say this thing of respect is earned sounds so... Anyway, I'll move on from there. And of course, this became a mantra for this type. Anything, if somebody says something they think that it makes them look smart, they're going to repeat it. Like, you can't fix stupid. Really now? Seriously? Yeah. Okay, any little mantra. You can't fix stupid is one. Anything that sounds cute and smart, like I just said. That type. No. You know, grow up. That's how I see it. Grow up. Think. Engage your own brain. Figure things out. Think. You don't have to have a mantra, you know, some kind of saying, expression, whatever, to fit the situation, so you don't have to think past that. You just put a stamp label. Okay, didn't realize that I was cooling off my windshield. You probably heard the noise behind the camera. But anyway, you know, really, the whole thing of how I see people is very different than just, say, 10 years ago. Now it's more like I have reached that age where, you know, I can say things like, they're old enough to be my adult son or my adult daughter, you know, or I'm old enough to be their mama. You see what I'm saying? And then when I look at people, say, people who are younger, really, as they're so young, you know, a little more wet behind the ears. And, I mean, I knew, by the way, I knew that when back in the, when was it? When I was in my 30s, maybe even before then, 20s. If you talk about certain topics, it's going to make, especially with somebody with my accent, but it's going to make them seem young, naive, or if it's anything that seems innocent, you know, seems nice. Oh my goodness, you're going to have that on you. Okay, I shouldn't say you, me. I learned this about me. That, yeah, people thought that since I'm a good, you know, I'm a good person, I'm a decent person, they thought of me as innocent. Oh, I'm going to take advantage of you quickly. You know, get all that I can from you. Then that's how it really felt going back into my, I'd say late 20s and early 30s, starting back then, and for a long time. And when they find out, you know, it's not going to happen, ooh, man, rage. Seriously, rage. But I don't know how this keeps going down this other road. I'm just going my own flow. But yeah, you know, seeing people and not putting them on a pedestal. When they make a mistake, you know, and they're going to make a mistake, it's not a big deal. It's like, yeah, I kind of expected that, you know. And I had a situation recently that really was testing me on that. And I was actually watching a person's videos, and that kind of went from being a good, decent person, then said something that was rather narcissistic, and you know, in another video down the line, and it was like, we all have a bit of narcissism in us. Okay, so, but you know, some people's views on things can cause a person to say, or you know, a person does say, they're wrong. They're, you know, you're right, and therefore they're wrong, and they're not perfect, and you know, they must be narcissistic. They must be something else. Not necessarily. So, anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go home, and I'll talk to you on another video. Bye.